I'm Tony Ruiz, contributing editor of Gold Derby, here with Claudia Jessie, who plays Eloise, the daughter with a mind of her own on Netflix's Bridgerton. And Claudia, I gotta just actually start there because Eloise is such an individual in a time period that doesn't always welcome individuality, especially deviating from the norm. Is that one of the appeals of this character?
I mean, it definitely allows a lot of room to play, which as a person who leans towards comedy is lovely. So I think there's a lot of freedom and playfulness with Eloise. So as an actor, it's like the sort of the biggest gift. I feel like with Eloise, she can only that can only expand really. That can only turn into more and more growth and exciting new elements of Eloise that we'll all get to meet. It's definitely appeal, and and the rest, like the rest of the job is just lovely as well.
Well, did you come into season 2 expecting, where did you expect her to go in season 2, and then how was that with what eventually ended up happening? How did that meet your expectation?
I think I was ready for her to enter society, as it were, start attending these balls that she would mock incessantly in season 1. I knew that was going to happen, and I knew she'd be doing it in her own way, whether that was like, forging a dance card with made up names or bribing footmen. But I think what was a nice gift from the script was seeing how actually seriously she feels about this. I think there's a sort of lovable eye roll in reaction to Eloise, a sort of, but she really means it. There's that scene where she has an argument with her mother when she's like, oh, I'm, this guy, shares your rebellious spirit. And she's like, this isn't a dress I put on to play a part. And I loved that, the depth that the layers that we're seeing of her. And also the fact that she finds out about Lady Whistledown. I was so pleased they put that in the script. I was so happy because I knew it was just going to be a wicked scene, and also it's who the audience want to find out the most, right? But yeah, it was definitely, there was little treats in the script that that allowed me to see Eloise growing. When we first see her, she's 17 and now she's 18, and there's this massive time for a young person. I remember for me, I was all over the place, crikey. Yeah.
Well, and I think also one of the things that I love, you mentioned the comedy earlier, and I think that really has kind of become part of the fabric of this character, and especially the physical comedy. I have to imagine that there's a certain degree. How much of that is you and how much of that is in the script?
I've got to say, when I took on the part of Eloise, when I gratefully took on the part of Eloise, I definitely very, very consciously was like, I'm going to make her walk differently. I'm going to make her sit differently. I'm going to make her speak at the speed of light. And, I wanted to do all of those things. So she is slightly like, one of those car dealership things that are on the top of it. Feels a little bit like that. And she's just a little bit, there's the etiquette that they all live within. And I just think Eloise sort of unsubscribes from it. And I wanted that to be an obvious thing, just because it makes her so distinctive. I mean, it's already in the script, like it's on the page. I've been gifted with the writers that Eloise is so vibrant on the page. But yeah, those physical things, I think, again, that's my love for clowning as well.
Well, and I think also when I spoke with Sophia Canale, who is the costume designer, she said that Eloise is her favorite character to costume. Is there something particular in the costumes that kind of helps you, that is also part of creating that character?
Yeah, she's quite, season 2, we just looked the costumes are so incredible. Sophia Canale is just amazing in every single way and a beautiful person. But I think with Eloise, there was a lot of little waistcoats and little mini jackets and little tuckers, and it was all quite structured and cool. There's a bit of almost sometimes like a bit of a punkiness to her. And then I think they're designed around us. Sophie's very much works. She knows the characters and she knows that, there's a brief or whatever, but even the way Eloise walks, that's considered, because, she will be like, right, let's see how this can be Eloised. Yeah, so I think, but yeah, there's a lot of cool structural stuff that I loved in season 2. I loved it.
So we have to talk, of course, about, I mean, the main kind of thrust of this season is Eloise's, continued search for the identity of Lady Whistledown. What is it about this quest of hers, if you want to call it that, that is she why is she so focused on it?
I think it's a lot of it might be escapism. Like, season one, she, went on so, fervently about how she really didn't want to be a part of what she called these bizarre rituals. And I think she knew Lady Whistledown was a woman. She'd put two and two together, figured out all of these characteristics and was like, this is an independent person with their own autonomy, earning their own money on their own, which to Eloise seems like a really sensible idea. And it is, right? So I think while she's surrounded by watching her older sister be, in Eloise's eyes, completely flawless, and she's not those things, and wanting to just read and be, explore her own mind, I think this was a great way to escape that. I think it's borderline obsessive, because her current reality isn't what she wants it to be. So yeah, I think she really desires, I think she kind of wants to be Lady Whistledown, really. which kind of leads to her getting more than she bargained for when the Queen basically accuses her of it. And of course, that leads to that really kind of just climactic confrontation between Eloise and Penelope. I have to imagine that you and Nicola get that scene. And how much did you two talk about it beforehand going into it? Or take us through that scene, because it is really the climax of the whole season. Yeah, I think we were very excited. And I remember when we did it in the read through, it was a bit like, everyone afterwards, we were a bit like, oh my gosh, it's so intense, so harsh. But we were very excited to do it. We were nervous. We were both really nervous, and we'd run the lines, and we talk about our characters a lot with each other, and remind each other of their age. And Nicola's so cute, she'll be like, I just can't believe Penelope's done this, and I'm like, yeah, but and then I'm like, Eloise never listens to Penelope, and then Nicola's like, yeah, but we hash it out with each other, because obviously you have to find reason for everything you do with your characters. And I think we were just dead excited, but then when we were on set, it was serious. Like, it was, we knew we really wanted to do a good job. And then after every time we do it, we'd have a little cuddle, and then we'd go back to number ones and start again, and then we'd have a little cuddle, because it was intense. It's a really brutal fight. And they've got such a pure love with each other. It's not sort of got the same stuff that the romantic love stories do, the intimate love stories do, that are so caught up in people not expressing themselves and but between those two, it's just sort of like, hi, love you, bye, love you. And so I think that's why it hurts so much when you see them fall apart.
I think that is one of the keys to the success of that scene, is the fact that it has to hinge on the fact that the two of them really are best friends. What do you think it is that connects them so deeply?
I mean, when you're that age, a lot of it's got to do with sort of geographically. That's how that works. Like, they live opposite each other, their families know each other, and the people you go to school with, you are sort of lumped together. You don't really, you start to choose your friends as you get a bit older. So I think they do have that, they've grown up together. But also I think Penelope doesn't have like the warmest domestic setting, and Eloise comes from this very loving, very playful family filled with like loyalty and love. And so I think Penelope must love being in that family as well. And then for Eloise, I think she's got someone who she believes understands her. And I think, again, with her family, Eloise will receive a bit of a loving eye roll, like, God, we hear this every dinner, every day, like, but with Penelope, I think she feels like she's got someone who really understands her and is going to give her the space to be so vocal about how she feels. And then I think they've just got they've got a really cute, playful silliness between them. And that's sort of what you want with your best mate. That's what I have with mine. Bless her.
They're in many ways kind of outsiders, even in their own family too, I think.
Yeah, I think the Penelope and Eloise are two examples of just young women that did exist then, who were at the vanguard, sort of holding the megaphone of all of these things. Things don't come from nothing, like they're an example of, and also they're quite close to the audience, like those two characters. Eloise, particularly with her views and what she believes she is entitled to, quite rightly. But yeah, so I think there's a real connect. And again, they're both quite funny. And I think audiences really connect to humour because it's so warm, isn't it? Funniness is so warm. So I think that, again, there's like a playfulness with them that I think people are connected to. And I am very pleased about that. Yeah.
Well, and one of the other kind of through lines of the season was also in Eloise's quest to find Lady Whistledown. She develops this friendship, quasi-romance with Theo. And it kind of, I think it catches Eloise off guard, and it catches the audience off guard, because I think that for a lot of us, we look at Eloise and go, oh, wow. You know, did you kind of approach that relationship, that interaction, and go, ooh, this is a different side?
No, I was pleased because I think, you know, romance is such an important part of Bridgerton. Like it's, you know, it's such a romantic show. And obviously Eloise, yes, she stands alone, I guess, in this very definite character archetype. So I think she does stand alone in that sense, but we can't ignore the romance of the show, and also the capacity for a young woman like Eloise to also feel romantic feelings. I think that's even more interesting, rather than this idea that it's like, no, Eloise is not that. No, that's not our Eloise. Our Eloise is like, bam, against this sort of, she doesn't want love, she doesn't believe in this crap or whatever, you know. Actually, I think it's way more interesting to be like, oh, look at Eloise's version of doing it. That's fun. She was a bit like, hey, mate, I think about you. Do you think about me? Wicked. Like, you know, like it was still very Eloise. She didn't suddenly turn like, oh, she didn't go all like coy and not Eloise. So actually, I think it's more thrilling. It's more to be like, oh, here's Eloise's version of romance and sort of love and new feelings. And it's just exciting to see. And I think also it wasn't like an unlikely match, yes, in like class and that sort of situation, but you could see why they were attracted to each other. And I don't think that would have taken the audience. I think they would have enjoyed the journey. Like I really did. Me and Callum, who plays Theo, both really just felt chuffed to be doing it. Like, yeah.
You know, the family unit on Bridgerton is so kind of important, and it is, I think, even with a lot of period pieces, you don't see that kind of tight family unit. You know, there's a lot of duty and custom, but there's also a real sense of love. How do you and the cast, particularly the family cast, how do you guys, you know, develop that? And is that what I can only imagine what it's like between takes in those big family moments.
I mean, we're blessed. It's been very easy. In fact, it's probably a little too easy, because I mean, so we get really excited when there's like Bridgerton scenes, like when we're at a dining room, like, you know, at dinner, or in the drawing room, or, you know, scenes when we're together as the family. But I tell you what, by about 11 in the morning, we're all wiped because we've been laughing so much. We're like so hyper when we're around each other. Like all of us are on Skittles. Like it was just, we're like spinning around each other. So I feel we've all landed on our feet, because it was sort of an instant that we all got along so tremendously. We love each other a lot, and we love working with each other. And so everything you see, you know, I mean, we are actors, we're really working hard. We're doing a lot of like proper chin strokey acting, but most of it's just us having a really cracking time. So that might be what people can sense, and that's good. That's what we want, right? Because I want people to know that the joy that they see on screen exists, because there's nothing more lovely than knowing that they all love each other as well. Like I love when I hear about really close-knit crews and casts, and we are one of them for sure. I love them.
Do you think that sense of joy is one of the attractions, one of the secrets to why this show is so successful?
Yeah, because it's just delicious. This is why I love the show, is because we're allowed to just love stuff. like, and not have to do a post-mortem afterwards to try and figure out why we might not like it or why we shouldn't like it and why we should maybe, no, like you don't need to find the problem. If you sat down and you watched Reggae Lick a Spoon and it made you so happy, and if you watched season 2 and you saw Johnny just being amazing and then, you know, the Queen being a badass and you loved it, then that is brilliant. Like, it's so good that we can watch TV and feel like, oh, this is so yummy, I just want to stay here forever. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think because it's just delicious escapism, loveliness, yummy fun, and I couldn't be prouder to be a part of it.
Well, and the journey, of course, is going forward, you know, and so at some point, hopefully, we will get an Eloise-centered season. And, you know, the books, you know, certainly provide the template, but do you foresee, like, do you have any wishes for Eloise's stories?
Oh, like a wish list?
Yes.
I wouldn't mind seeing her get a little bit political. Do you know what I mean? Like a bit suffragette-y, a bit cool. Because I think what we see right now is in season 1 and 2, she's very much a sponge. I think she's got an idea of what she thinks is right and wrong, and she's got desires, and she's very staunch about stuff, isn't she? But it's all, she's just reading, going to debates, learning things, meeting new people. So it's like sponge. And I can't wait for her to, as she gets older, streamline it into something very clear that she's like, this is my jam. Because we've all got something, haven't we? We've all got something that it's ours, that we feel like, you know, pulls us along. And I'm excited for her to find her version of that. And then maybe it means she gets a little bit badass and political and a bit like protesty. I'd quite like, that's the protester in me that wants that. I want full anarchy.
Do you have, I mean, because I think one of the first things that everybody will be looking for in an upcoming season would be, where does Eloise go with Penelope now? Because audiences are so invested in that relationship. Where do you see that going?
Well, I mean, I'm desperate for them to make up. I mean, I'm already like, come on, like, I don't want it to go on like this. Yeah, but I think they're gonna make us sweat a bit, because it's good telly, isn't it? But I think I'm desperate for them to make up. But I just think it's important that this happens, because firstly, Penelope gets the opportunity to continue being a badass, writing and being independent, no matter what's happened. And then Eloise gets to learn to not live vicariously through other people, which I think she's been doing. So, you know, she lost this guy that she really likes. She's lost her best mate. And sometimes it's when you rock bottom that you kind of go, okay, I've got to figure this out now. Like, I've got to do it. And I think it might be a really pivotal time in her years that actually set her up for the future, is having this sort of loneliness, I think, and sort of, gosh, where do I go? What's my thing? So I think it's going to benefit them ultimately.
Well, I certainly can't wait to see that. Claudia Jessie, thank you so much. Everybody go to goldderby.com, make your predictions for the Emmys, and stay tuned for interviews with more contenders throughout the season. Claudia Jessie from Bridgerton, a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you, Tony. And happy birthday for tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.